First, let's check in with our media partners from the Voice of OC for an update on what's happening this week in Orange County government and politics.
All right, here to talk to us about the issues in the news right now, we're so happy to welcome the editor-in-chief for Voice of OC, Norberto Santana.
Norberto, your team has taken a deep look at what some are calling the Latino health paradox, where first-generation Mexican immigrants are much healthier than their children. What did you guys find out?
Our Healthy Communities correspondent Amy DePaul put together a 3-day series this month that presented a troubling trend for many Mexican immigrants. Despite better incomes, life in the United States turns out to be profoundly more unhealthy than the life they left behind. Now, while better health is usually linked to wealth and education, experts are finding that low-income Mexican immigrants with little formal schooling are healthier than the overall U.S. population, according to a number of measures, including certain cancers, heart disease, and mental health. Yet once life begins in the United States, Mexican immigrants lose those health advantages within a generation, according to the researchers like Dr. Patik Wadhwa.
The longer they stay in the U.S., it seems that there's a deterioration in birth outcomes.
Now, things get progressively worse for their children. Research confirms that the second generation winds up in poorer health than the immigrant generation in a number of key areas: type 2 diabetes, cancer, birth outcomes, and heart disease. Now, U.S.-influenced diet is increasingly being identified as the key culprit. Now, in Anaheim, for example, 44% of school children are overweight or obese. Santa Ana has an even higher rate at 47%. In looking at childhood obesity, experts often point to the food options that are available and affordable to kids. Now, in Santa Ana, more than 3/4 of the retail food options are fast food or convenience stores with no farmers markets, according to a 2007 study. Now, for infants to get off the right foot in life, experts recommended breastfeeding, which has been linked to reduction in obesity and diabetes later in an infant's life.
For a low-income family, it's expensive to eat healthy. Breastfeeding really is the first line of defense against childhood obesity. Their chances of becoming diabetics are much lower. When you look at the weight, it impacts diabetes, it impacts heart disease, and it impacts their life basically forever, for as long as they're alive.
Now, check out our website to read the full 3-day series.
All right, Norberto, back in 2011, when County Supervisor Janet Nguyen took over the county's low-income health insurance agency called CalOptima, she publicly took issue with handing out bonuses to executives, while fees for lower-income folks were actually hiked. Yet earlier this month, 2 years into her stewardship over the agency, CalOptima did just that and granted bonuses. What's the latest?
This time, the backdrop is a state campaign finance investigation into Nguyen, a majority of county supervisors, and the CalOptima board members themselves, alongside questions from the FBI and rumblings that federal ratings could be downgraded. Now, Supervisor Janet Nguyen has remained under the microscope ever since our coverage detailing her intense campaign fundraising from healthcare interests, while she also gave medical industry representatives more power at CalOptima. Now, last month, the Orange County Register also reported on that trend. Now, after a scathing grand jury investigation into CalOptima last year, state officials announced a probe into campaign fundraising, and FBI agents have been reportedly asking questions about Nguyen's fundraising, according to those who have been recently interviewed by agents who came carrying large boxes of documents. Now, this week, we also learned that local campaign finance watchdog Shirley Drindle successfully pressed Nguyen to return an unrelated but illegal $1,700 contribution steered by the Orange County Employees Association through a local political action committee. Now, dozens of executives have left that agency since Nguyen's takeover in 2011, and earlier this month, Healthcare Agency Director Mark Refowitz warned CalOptima board members to expect a tough federal standards review. We'll stay on top of this from this agency, and that nearly serves nearly 500,000 of the county's most vulnerable and poor elderly residents.
Norberto, earlier this month, Voice of OC reported about an email that raised troubling questions about whether top officials at the Orange County Fire Authority were engaged in bid rigging. After your story, OCFA's fire chief came before county supervisors to apologize. Fill us in on what happened.
County supervisors took immediate action earlier this month after seeing an email that appeared to give current ambulance providers an advantage in upcoming bids for service. Now, supervisors threatened to strip OCFA of the ability to monitor ambulance bids. That prompted Fire Chief Keith Richter to come before county supervisors and apologize. Here's what he told them.
I offer no excuses for this very poorly worded communication, and I accept responsibility on behalf of the OCFA. The employee that authored the email now recognizes that it created a very strong impression of impropriety in the mind of anyone reading it.
All right, in our last story, longtime Lake Forest City Councilman Peter Herzog abruptly resigned his post after voicing concerns for most of the year about how the Orange County GOP and local developers changed that city council. What do we know now?
Herzog had long protested two housing developments that his new colleagues on the council pushed through after receiving tens of thousands of dollars in political action committee contributions steered from those local developers through the Orange County GOP. Now, we did a story on those connections earlier this year, but the developments do have the votes to move forward given the new support of new council members. Now, GOP Chairman Scott Baugh declined comment on this issue earlier this year, and the council members Herzog is referring to said their votes had nothing to do with the large amounts of campaign cash they got from these developers. Now, in his resignation, Herzog calls those council members and the city attorney an embarrassment. He said the town, quote, went from small-town elections to partisan-style politics and excessive campaign money laundered through PACs, end quote. Now, adding that the local GOP has introduced a new concept to the town. It's calling it money, not people. Now, we spoke to him earlier this year, and here's what he had to say on the issue.
Happen here. It should not happen here. Elections in Lake Forest should not be bought. This city should not be for sale. And that is truly, truly offensive, if that is what is now going on.
It isn't clear what Herzog is going to do now, but it doesn't look like he's going to go away. He's just tired of being on a council dais that he considers a sham. Now, whether it's recalls, new elections, or plain just old activism, we'll stay in touch with Herzog as he moves into this new phase.
All right.
Okay, for more on these stories and other political news throughout Orange County, go to voiceofoc.org.
All right, thanks a lot, Norberto.